Yes, ma'am. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, and you? My name's Layla, and I've recently watched 3 videos of yours: Best Top 10 Charlie Kirk Debate Moments of
Oh
2024,
no.
Students Enraged That I Say College is a Scam, and 10 Unforgettable Charlie Kirk Debates That Shook 2024. And I picked 3.
So, guys, let me just say this real quick. If you haven't heard of Charlie Kirk, he's all over YouTube doing a lot of debates, talking to a lot of people, goes to different schools, different campuses, talks to people about these different issues, politics, race, whatever topic he want to debate. But he's well studied. But sometimes he goes to these debates and these people are still well studied enough, even though they're students. But it's interesting to hear him talk. I think he puts his stuff together somewhat well, but his logic is off a lot of times. And we're going to go through this and see what he got to say to this young student appears at this some type of thing he has outside where he's debating people. Let's continue.
Different topics that I think are important to me, which comes down to immigration, affirmative action, and DEI, and college is a scam. But the one I want to talk to you about the most is affirmative action and DEI. And in these videos, you have said, quote for quote, white males have high test scores. White males shouldn't have to be penalized. You did acknowledge and say that people of color come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds that do not prioritize education much. But instead of making a suggestion on how to help those communities and continue to build those communities up, you continue to say that our institutions are becoming less excellent. And I'm confused as to what your definition of excellence is. Is that because white males aren't necessarily, in your opinion, getting accepted as in a higher rate, even though they technically are, because 41% of college admitted students are of the white race?
It should be higher than that. Yeah.
Based on what? Where are you getting the statistic? I just want to understand.
It's a good question. The Supreme Court did a whole case on this, and it ruled against affirmative action. And we saw the books of Harvard. So
I don't want to cut you off. May I know for future reference, so I can understand where you're coming from and get more context, could I know the Supreme Court case?
Yeah. So the name
He doesn't even know the name of the court case. He doesn't even know. She asked him a great question to solidify his claim. He can't even do it. Now, here's the thing. A lot of the beliefs and stuff that he's saying, a lot of things that he says is going to sound very intelligent, going to sound very smart and stuff like that. But the truth is he don't half of the time he don't know what the hell he's talking about. He don't know what the hell he's talking about. He just knows just enough to come there and try to sound smart. But people like this that view the world a certain way, oftentimes can get exposed when you just ask the right questions and you let them talk. I think she did a good job with that question. Let's continue.
Boy, 2.5 years ago, I think it was something out of California. Someone look it up. You could use Grok or ChatGPT.
If somebody could please look that up for me. Thank you.
So we saw the data out of Harvard. Harvard was the test case.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to just take your word for it. You saw the data out of Harvard. We got to just take your word for it. Yeah, we're going to look it up too. Anybody else watching, let's look that up and let's look for that information. And also look for information that goes against it, because guess what? You can do a lot of things with data. You can do a lot of things with numbers. You can make a lot of statements off of things depending on what you're trying to formulate using this to things that benefit you. But there's always a counter argument to it. Let's continue.
And effectively, approximating, but a white male had to get about a 30% higher test score to even be considered than an equivalent black student.
And when was this?
Over 30 years.
That's the biggest load of BS I've ever heard. A white man got to get a 30% higher test score than a black person. So he got that reverse, right? We all know that a black person had to be and still have to be 2 times, 3 times better to even have an opportunity to be considered in some of these white institutions. That's just the facts. We've come a long way, but to sit there and act as if like a black person is going to get in at bare minimum, and white people with way higher scores are not going to get in and not going to be accepted first, man, that's BS. And if that happens in some sector of this world, which anything is possible, in some sector of this world. Somewhere it's probably possible, but it's probably such a small percent that it's not even being mentioned. But the fact that he's going to use that because it makes his argument sounds good. And that's how these things go. That's how people debate. They play these games and they use these numbers to make themselves sound like they have a case, when in all actuality, they don't have a case. They just put stuff together to make it sound good. But that's not happening. On a regular basis, I could tell you right now, in no situation at all, a white person has to be 30% better than a black person. That's total BS.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. So basically for a black student, they could do 30% worse on their standardized scores than an equivalent white student.
And you don't think that has any outside factors to do with it?
Well, that's not the point. The point is whether or not.
But how is that not the point?
Because I don't believe we should accommodate based on outside factors. You do.
Well, I do, because I believe in progression. And I feel like you have stated in multiple of your videos, which I do have a quote.
No, fair enough. I'm just making sure we understand we disagree.
I
don't think we should change the rules of the game to accommodate.
What were the rules of the game?
Well, the rules of the game are that you should be treated fairly and equally, right?
For sure.
That's an American principle.
And I agree with that completely.
Got it. So therefore, a white male should not be treated differently than a black male.
But when you come from a different...
Doesn't matter.
All right, now see, this is where I side with him a little bit on, because I do believe that what we want and what we've been fighting for with Martin Luther King and everybody else that have fought and died in this country for equality, to end desegregation and stuff like that, all we wanted was a fair shot. That's it. We just want a fair shot. We want equal opportunity. Judge me by my merit, not by my race. We don't want nobody to just give us anything just because we're black. Whatever we went through in the past, all that stuff should not be considered when it comes to mano a mano, your test versus my test. I don't want nobody to give me nothing based off of the fact that I had it hard. No, I don't want that. I'll give it to me because I deserve it. I think most of us want to get things because we deserve it. We don't want to just get things that people have, just because we're black. We don't want that. That's not something that we ever advocated for. So her argument right here falls apart. And I think it's a bad idea of her even doing this, to try to act as if she doesn't understand why that wouldn't be such a great angle to use in this debate. Because it's going to come off like there's an entitlement, like there's a victim mentality going on. And we don't need that, because it's going to be tossed out and we're going to be made to look like a fool. So, but let's continue.
Equal treatment or not. It's not whether or not you were said mean things when you grew up or whether your dad was a gangbanger. Doesn't matter.
Well, I'm not saying that's not the outside factors I'm talking about.
It doesn't matter what the outside factors are.
But can I explain where I'm coming from?
But understand, I'm going to finish and I'll let you talk.
Okay,
Equal treatment is regardless of any sort of sob story you could put on before it. Equal treatment. Test score.
And I completely agree with that. But I also come from a predominantly white town, so I understand what you're trying to say. In my district, we have so much funding, and I live in the Florida Keys, so there's a lot of funding that comes to my school. And you can drive 30 miles north and you end up in Homestead, where they have a fraction of the funding that we have, and they don't have as much of the same testing instructors and people to help them, and have as much of the same outside resources. And then you can keep going another 30 miles and you end up in Miami, where all the private schools are, and they get even more funding than where I come from. Obviously I ended up where I am today because I continue to push through, and I didn't let any outside factors affect me. But at the end of the day, I kept going, and some people
see, at this point, it seems like she's kind of rambling, and she's stating her case about how she made it out and other people wasn't able to do it. What she doesn't realize is that nobody around her wants to hear her story. These people don't give a damn about what you've been through, what your struggle was. All they care about is making their point and their agenda, as far as, getting their point across. His case to you, his point to you is that it should be mano a mano, test score versus test score, no matter what your history is. And she's continued to make her point about funding other schools and things like that, which is a good point. But unfortunately, it won't hold up when it comes to somebody else, giving somebody an advantage over somebody else in a situation where two people are competing for something. It's just not going to be a legitimate or logical claim to actually try to move forward on. So it's a bad idea of doing this.
People don't have that same ability, and I also
it doesn't. Again, first of all, in Florida, every public school gets the same amount of money. Okay, there's an equal funding.
Yeah, but
across the board.
But you also get donations from the people in your community.
Fair enough, but Florida has,
and I know for a fact that my community gets many donations.
Florida has the most. You could use equitable funding structure of any school, and has universal school choice, basically. So that's number one. Number two, explain to me why, when we're admitting people for a job, should it just be what's on that piece of paper, or should race play into the factor?
So I know that your argument is mediocrity. I forgot. I don't know.
Mediocrity.
Really. Okay, yeah, and I know that, and I also believe in quotas as well. But I don't think that it should be one in one, but they should go hand in hand. Because at the end of the day, if I have just as good as a resume as somebody next to me, I want to understand where you're getting that jobs are just taking people because they're a woman, because they are Black. I just want to see. And I understand what you're trying to say because of course, with affirmative action and DEI, that does give them an upper hand. But where does it say that you take somebody just because of that color?
All over the place. Capitol Street Partners back in the summer 2022 said that they will not hire white men for internships. That's one example of thousands I could give.
Because of how many people are in there, how many people in position?
Because they wanted to be. Again, that's irrelevant.
That is a BS claim. That is a BS claim. And the fact that he went to this case or whatever talking about they weren't hiring white people because, dude, that doesn't make the point that she asked you for. She asked you to show a case where they were hiring people only because they were Black versus like as if they weren't qualified. And you can't do it. You can't do it because you're going to automatically assume that a Black person is DEI hired does not qualify when you don't know that for sure. You don't even know. You have no idea. You're going to continue to make this case as if you have hardcore facts, but you can't provide no facts. And that's just the way, this thing has been going. He's running away with this idea that he knows when he doesn't know at all.
It does not matter if you have an internship and everyone is a white man. If they're all qualified, that's great. It doesn't matter if they're all Asian or all Black. It should be what merit qualification gets the people into that position.
And of course, but if this school only wanted white people to attend.
No, good, excellent qualified people. And if they end up majority white, who cares? Why does that matter?
I don't think that matters. I'm saying that affirmative action.
No, you are saying it matters.
I'm saying that, but I'm not saying for the white male or the Black race or the Asian race or the Indian race or understand what I'm saying. I'm saying that. I'm saying that.
Here's the thing. He said, why does it matter? It matters because as a Black person in this country, and I think I'm going to stop the video right here, guys. As a Black man in this country, with the history that we've had in this country, we've been discriminated against. We've been given less and lack of opportunities. And our ancestors had to fight for certain privileges, fight for certain things, just to be given the equal opportunity to be treated fairly. That's an absolute fact. We are only 12% of this population. 12% of the population. White people are much higher than that. And then you got the foreigners come in and stuff like that. But we have to understand that the reason why DEI and affirmative action is even in the picture is because the people at the top, these white power structures had an agenda. They had an agenda and they wanted to put only white people in place. Black people were not getting the opportunity at all, and they were qualified. They were overqualified in most cases, but they were not given the opportunity because the agenda was to not allow Black people the opportunity. That's how we got here, okay? So let's not just say, why does it matter? It matters because we don't want to be discriminated against. That's why. We don't want to be treated unequal. That's why. We want to be treated like everybody else. We want a fair opportunity. That's all we're asking for. We don't need a handout. No, we don't need nobody to feel sorry for us. All we want to do is be given an equal opportunity and a fair chance. That's all we ask for. You see what I'm saying? And I think the young lady did well. She's a very smart young lady. She's probably early 20s. Parents should be proud of her. She went into a situation with a guy who's, way more experienced as far as what he's talking about. That's why he set the microphone there and he got all this stuff set up because he knew what he was going to discuss. She probably didn't know in detail, but she did have her stuff written down. She had took some notes, but as far as the stuff that he has like go-to points, I call them, where he just automatically go to and he knows exactly what to talk about. But because he does it all the time, it doesn't surprise me. But yeah, guys, you know, we have to look at things rationally. We have to look at it honestly, factually, take the feelings out and just look at the facts. That's what I do. Take the feelings out and look at the facts. You know, I would love to, you know, claim the victim card, and I would love to, you know, act as if somebody owes us something and all this stuff. But that's not how the real world works. That's not how the real world works. All we need to do is be treated fairly. Okay, we can't undo the history. We can't undo the past. We get that. We understand that. We not coming here asking for something for free. Other than, I mean, I would love my reparations. You're damn right. I would love to get my reparations. Pay me my reparations. I need it right now, matter of fact. Put it in my account. But what we got to understand is that these people in the world don't care about that. They don't care about your story. They don't care about your struggle. Nobody cares about what you've been through. That's the harsh reality of the world. Nobody cares about that. All they care about is what it says on that score, on that paper, on that test score. That's all they care about. They care about what, you know, how your work performance is, how is your character, and the things that actually matter to their company or to the school to get you in the door. That's all people care about. So telling somebody your sad story, telling somebody what you've been through, it might make you feel good, but truth of the matter is nobody cares. So we got to just look at it from a realistic point of view, accept it for what it is, and move forward with the intention that we can actually achieve things without getting a handout. We don't need nobody to feel sorry for us. We don't even need it. I don't even want it. Don't give me nothing. Let me earn it. Don't give me a fish. Teach me how to fish. Matter of fact, don't teach me how to fish. I'll teach myself how to fish. You dig? But yeah, y'all, until next time, do not forget to subscribe. Subscribe if you have not already. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about what we just talked about. And until next time, holla.